Hi, this is Emily Leiphart of Art from the Heart, and this video is part of Ellen Hutson's Essentials by Ellen Spring 2017 release. I'll be featuring the Otter stamp set and coordinating dies. They are meant to coordinate with the Otterly Awesome stamp set and coordinating dies. However, you can certainly use them on their own for serene ocean scenes. You can also use these with many other stamp sets from the Essentials by Ellen line. Otter has a combination of solid and outline stamps for backgrounds and accessories to the otters in Otterly Awesome. You can even use them for a lake setting for the Oh Dear stamp set featured in my previous video. My favorite part of the Otterly Awesome designer dies is the cutout paws, so you can put things in the otter's hands. There are a few fun options within their own stamp set, but even more options in the Otter stamp set. I can tell you right now that you're going to find it hard to resist these stamp sets. They are just amazing. The original footage for the start of this video was somehow corrupted, so I lost the stamping part, but I used the same technique as in the first video for today's hop with the Oh Dear stamp set. Since I'm watercoloring both of today's otter cards, I stamped and clear embossed all of the images from the Otterly Awesome set, except for the little speech bubble. I can't get over how cute these otters are, and I want to put them on every card. Otters' faces are lighter than the rest of their body, so I used antique linen distress ink in the center and brushed corduroy around the edges of their heads. On their bodies I used gathered twigs and added depth with walnut stain. I'm not a fan of yellow and brown together, so I didn't want to color traditional yellowy orange starfish. There are some types that are purplish in color, so I chose Seedless Preserves, which is a bright, beautiful purple distress ink. For the fish, I used pumice stone and hickory smoke. For the clam, I created stripes with brushed corduroy and hickory smoke. Then I used my heat tool to speed up the drawing process. Here are all of the images after they've been die cut. Those otters are so scrumptiously cute, and you can't help but want to put food in their little paws. Now I'm working on a watercolor panel that I've cut down by 1/4 of an inch. I'll be stamping 3 of the seaweed stamps to create a kelp forest for the otter couple. When the sentiment has been stamped and heat embossed, I can start stamping the kelp forest with distress inks. The colors I'm using are forest moss and peeled paint. Just like in my first video, I'll be adding water to these stamps to create an underwater look with movement. After all the stamping is done, I can create the rest of the background with blue distress inks and lots of water. I start by adding water all over the card and around the kelp. I don't want to activate the green distress inks just yet. I leave a border around the edge of the panel because I don't want the blue going all the way to the edge. I add evergreen bough to the top of the card, then peacock feathers in the middle and broken china towards the bottom. I continue to add color and water until I get the right saturation. After I lay down the first layer of blues, I add water to the kelp to activate the greens. This blurs the lines of the stamps and make the kelp look as if it's swaying with the ocean current. Where there's too much water, especially around the edges, I use a piece of paper towel to absorb it and control the flow of color, even as I'm drying the panel with my heat tool. When the panel is completely dry, I attached a piece of fun foam to the back and adhere it to the card base. Initially I wanted to have one of the otters holding that pretty starfish, but it was too big and covered up their clasped paws in the center. It would be so perfect in the single big otter's paws. No matter, I will use this starfish at the base of my card to help balance the offset kelp. I'm going to use my X-Acto knife to tuck glue dots underneath the fish and clam to hold them in place. Then I'll use 2 layers of glue dots to adhere the starfish at the base of the kelp on the left. After popping on the otter couple with foam tape, my card is done. To create my second card using the same stamp and die sets, I'm using the other 2 otters, this time with the mom holding her baby. 12 years ago I lived in San Diego for 3 years, and during one of our trips up the coast we visited Monterey Bay Aquarium. I've been in love with sea otters ever since. They are quite possibly the cutest animals on earth. I use the otters to help me position the sentiment in waves, which I stamp 3 times, making sure that they don't interfere with the mom's tail. After all of the embossing powder has been heat set, I'm going to use blue distress inks to stamp splash marks on either side of the otters. I added a second shade to the base of the drops, but if I had to do it again, I wouldn't. I think the drops ended up being too dark. To watercolor this background, I'm using the same 3 blues I used on the first otter card, and I'm also adding tumbled glass, which I'll use for the top half of the card since it's the lightest of the 4 shades. This time I'll paint right to the edge of the panel. With quick brushes of color that is quite watered down, this was quick and easy. To add visual interest, I'm going to partially die cut the splashes with their coordinating dies. The end of the cutting plate is beveled, so I make sure that the soft edge ends where I want the die cutting to stop on those splash dies. Then I'll do the same with the other 3 pieces of the dies. I attached fun foam to the back of the panel and used my X-Acto knife to tuck 2 layers of glue dots under the edges of those partially die-cut droplets. This will keep them raised slightly. I also used 2 layers of glue dots to adhere the baby to her mom. Then I apply foam tape to the back of the mom so I can pop her on the panel after it's attached to the card base. Now my second Otter card is done. Here are the 2 cards together. Please refer to the supply links below if you're interested in any of the products I used in this video. You can also visit my blog to comment for a chance to win a stamp set of your choice from this release. Thanks so much for watching!